Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. Happy Monday as we gear up and get ready for convention this year, 2023. We're about 9 business days out, which is super crazy. We want to thank you all for joining us today with some key members of the ALPFA National staff. So thank you to our community and all of our members in the audience for joining us. We hope that we're going to dive into a very helpful educational session about Know Before You Go, dive into the ins and outs of the convention schedule, how to navigate our attendee hub, and make sure that everybody on this call is set up in the best way possible to be on site in San Antonio for convention 2023. So my name is Felicia Gasparo. I'm the programs manager for the ALPFA National team. I've been here about 3 years this November. Super exciting and such an honor. But however, none of the programming, planning, delivery, and operation of the beast of convention would be possible without my fabulous team. So I wish that we could bring on all of the moving pieces. However, we have some representatives from each of our departments here to share a little bit about themselves and their experience. With that, I'm going to kick it off to Zuhaili first.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Zuhaili Ramon, and I'm the marketing manager. She, her pronouns, and I'm based in Boston. I'll pass it on to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Paolino, and I support with the Women of ALPFA programming as well as some of the executive level programming.
And Maria?
Okay, I can go next. My name is Maria Fernandez. I've been with ALPFA for 6 years now. I am ALPFA's membership manager. I also oversee student initiatives, and I'm based in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Beautiful. And Vanessa, last but not least.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa Jimenez. I'm a senior undergraduate student at Drexel University, and I'm the new ALPFA National Marketing Intern.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So let's get right into it. And I want to remind the audience that you are more than welcome to drop any of your questions in the chat, depending on the platform you're joining us from. We will do our best to answer those questions during today's session, and we will be keeping note of those to make sure that we get all of them answered. However, we're going to start today by letting everybody know where they can go and what the true source of information is going to be from now throughout convention. So we're going to start with letting everybody know that the Attendee Hub did open July 20th. And since then, you should all have the access to jump in and start reviewing all of the elements of convention that will be available to you. So you will be able to jump in there. You should download the app if you haven't already. That's going to be your first step. All of these links we will make sure are available to you after, but they should be in the chat function as well so that you can click and join. In addition to this app, we are currently working on a PDF version of the full convention agenda. If you have any issues with the app, of course, please let us know. We are going to also prep the audience today with like a mini run through of pre-convention agenda. And I'm going to kick it off by starting us off with what happens before convention. So for those of you who have attended convention before or been ALPFA members for quite a while, convention is an on-site experience. However, we start our programming much sooner than that. So starting today, we have a couple of partner-driven events today, tomorrow, throughout this week. And then August 14th through the 18th, we're going to start our pre-convention ALPFA Connect series, which gives our partners the opportunity to collaborate and communicate with our members about how they're going to be showing up at convention, where you can find them, and what types of things and roles they're going to be bringing to the on-site sessions. So it would be also completely impossible for us to give a full rundown in 1 hour. And that being said, in the Attendee Hub, as I mentioned before, in the FAQ that's available there, and once the PDF of the agenda is available later today, this is going to be, from this point on, the true source of all the information that you'll need. You'll find prep questions, and we also have a what to wear guide on our Instagram. So all of ALPFA National's social media accounts are going to be a great and key source for anybody who's attending to find out information that they may need. So I think that that's all of my prep info. So let's jump into the questions, and we're going to start with Vanessa. First of all, welcome to the ALPFA National team. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And I can't wait for you to experience convention from the planning side on site with all of us for the first time. But as a prior convention attendee, and then you mentioned you're a current student, how important are all of the pre-convention events that ALPFA National hosts, like pre-convention boot camp for students? Those would be pre-convention ALPFA Connects. even down to our social media marketing. How important are all of those elements to a student who's attending convention?
Yeah, so I'm super excited going into convention. Last year was my first time going, so this year will be the second time. And I wish I had honestly paid more attention to a lot of the pre-convention events. Last year, I didn't get to participate in the student boot camp when it happened live, but I got to watch it back, and it really helped me learn more about the professionals that were going to be attending, how they were feeling going into convention, and what students can really expect when they're interacting with these professionals. So that really helped me when I was going into the career fair and was meeting these professionals and setting up interviews. And the other big resource that I really liked was the Attendee Hub, because it was just a great resource to be using for all the pre-convention events, the things that were going to be going on at convention. And it's going to provide you with a bunch of essential information that will ease your worries before you go into convention. So I definitely recommend those two.
Amazing answer. And that is an amazing point. It is definitely a different experience joining for the first time or the second time as a student, as a professional, and then even as a partner. It's definitely new and evolving every year. Thank you so much for that. In addition to that, what advice would you have for anyone joining for the first time? And because you are a student, specific to our student community, are there any key pieces that you would essentially give yourself if you could go back and be joining for the first time around?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing I would tell students is to not be nervous and don't be afraid to ask questions, because those questions are going to make you as prepared as possible going into convention. So, looking back last year, I was really nervous to try to socialize with people. So, I just had to keep in mind that the people that were around me were students and professionals who were just like me, and they were looking for opportunities just like me. So, it's important to keep that in mind so that you can go into this feeling less nervous.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And one last question for you, Vanessa, if that's okay, is there, and now that you're on the programming and planning side, and this will be a first time experience on the ALPFA National scale, is there anything that ALPFA National and our partners, from your perspective, should be thinking about as we navigate the planning process for students and professionals? Is there any advice that you have for us?
Well, I think students see this, that they're coming from everywhere to come to this event. So this could be their first time attending. This could be their fourth time attending. So just keeping in mind the diversity among the students that are coming and their different majors and the different experiences that they're bringing to the table. So just keeping that in mind when you're interacting with these students and planning for them.
That's a great tip. Thank you so much. Speaking about students from an ALPFA National planning perspective, Maria Fernandez, who introduced herself, is our our membership manager and our student initiatives manager as well. So she handles all things student boot camp, fellowships, anything driven to our student community. So we're going to ask you some questions, Maria. Any advice or tips that you have for students looking to break into the world of convention for the first time?
So the first thing would be actually prepare to have fun and prepare to network and to learn a lot of things. So open your minds to the new experiences, to actually living in the moment. Sometimes we are so nervous that we're just like floating through things and not really taking in what convention actually brings. So I encourage all of our students to open your minds, be willing to listen to other stories, to build work, and to actually have fun. And one of the things that I've heard from all of our partners, and they wanted to make sure that I shared this with you, is wear comfortable shoes. Because they've seen in so many other conventions, like our students trying to look their best self. Yes, of course, but you cannot be comfortable if you are going through foot pain. So one of the things that most of our partners have told me through our last meetings is please make sure to tell our students to be comfortable in their own skins and feel comfortable when you're working and walking through convention.
That's a great tip. And from our ALPFA National team, that definitely applies to us and our partners as well. It's a lot of walking. It's a beautiful experience and a beautiful property, but definitely comfortable shoes is a great tip. Speaking of tips and nerves, for anyone who's going to be navigating convention for the first time, even the second time, as I mentioned before, things are definitely pivoting, our economy, our hiring structure. Are there any tips that you would have for individuals walking into this experience amongst thousands of people, hundreds of partners, any ways that they can best be prepared when getting ready to interview?
I think the best tip would be to do their research. So go into the attendee hub. You will be able to see the full list of partners that will be attending. And that is one of the questions that I receive a lot. Who will be there? Who will be attending convention? Who will I be able to meet at convention? So do your research. You will be able to see the full list. Go into their partners' website. Take a look at what roles they have available. And when you approach their booth or approach them in their info sessions or the workshops or even on the halls, make sure that you're introducing them yourself by leveraging that research that you already did. Hey, I went into your website. I know that you were going to be here. I noticed that you're hiring through this role, and I'm interested in having a conversation with you. And I know Jennifer has amazing tips for that. So I'm going to bring her into the conversation.
Thank you, Maria. As I was listening to both you and Vanessa speak, one of the things that I had the privilege and the honor, for those of you that don't know me, I was on the partnership team last year for about 2.5 years. And so I got the privilege of hearing from partners some of the things that they wanted to see from students as well. And the key thing that I would always tell students is our partners that are there aren't just there to recruit, they're also there to support you. So going to these boot camp events are essential, and also just reaching out to the professionals in the ALPFA network and not being afraid to say, hey, I actually need help. I'm not sure if my resume is tailored correctly. I'm not sure if this is worded correctly, and just being vulnerable and transparent in a way that they can actually support you with what you need, and not just kind of assuming that you got to figure it out on your own. And that's why ALPFA exists, is to be able to help not just our students, but also our professionals. And we'll get into that later on in the conversation today. But just from a student perspective, wanting to focus the attention on your nerves will go away when you make connections to those professionals that are willing to help you, because now you know that you've entered the safe space. So just make sure that you're taking advantage of the people that are telling you they're there to help you, to review your resume. And you have all of our LinkedIns as well, and we're happy to support in any way. So don't miss out on an opportunity of a lifetime at convention because you didn't prepare by making sure you reached out to people or took advantage of the people at convention that were offering you the opportunity to review your resume even on site. So don't think you have to know it all. Just go in there with an open mind and heart to learn.
Thank you so much. And making sure everyone can still hear me.
Yes, I think we can.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Everyone can still hear me. It looked a little glitchy. Tech issues always plaguing us over here. Thank you so much for that answer. And from Jen's perspective as well, that's super helpful. I forgot to mention at the beginning that some of our ALPFA National members did also start as ALPFA student members. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Zuhaili and Jen both fall into that bucket as well.
Yes. So I was a direct ALPFA student member. We did get exposed to ALPFA at Temple's campus closer to the end of my senior year. But then I also was a chapter leader on the professional side before coming out to the national team. So it was a cool experience to go through the whole process from student all the way to being a part of the national team.
Yeah, and I joined ALPFA Boston as a professional. And it was actually through the president, the chapter president, Isis, that I became the marketing manager. So I have more of the professional kind of cycle of membership.
Beautiful. So as we are getting into from a current intern, current student, and second time convention attendee, we've talked about what it's going to be like for first time convention attendee marketing. Now that we're talking to Zuhaili, what do you think our partners, our professionals, our hiring recruiters can gather and take away from?
And we lost our host.
Yeah, I think we lost Felicia, but I think where she was going with it was in regards to partners and professionals and what they can expect coming into convention, Zuhaili.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least from overall from the national team and especially the marketing team, we're very excited for this year, since we really did dive and leaned into the theme of the overall city, right, which is all about history. It's all about power, specifically power in our history and power in our community. And so that's really what everyone is going to see the moment they step really at the airport. Like we've really, as a organization, we've really dived into the overall journey. What are the different journeys that are going to be happening throughout convention? How are they different from one another, but also how are they coming together? And so the themes of identity, culture, community are extremely strong at every single component of the experience, everything from marketing, programming, the networking, the mixers. We've all collectively been thinking about those different themes, and so I'm very excited to see that coming through.
And Suhaili, as you who has really dove deep, has dove in deep into just building this experience from a cultural perspective, what are some things that our attendees can expect in the area and just taking advantage of that culture? Because San Antonio is such a culturally rich area. Is there something that you can share with the audience to let them be immersed even beyond the convention experience in the area?
Absolutely. And great question. I think I know we've talked about previously a couple of the different tools that we have available for our members and our partners. That's really where the Attendee Hub and specifically the convention app, right? Everything that has all the content that's within the Attendee Hub is in the convention app, but it's just the mobile version of it. So everything from workshops, speakers, what to eat around the area. There's a lot of different options of food, a lot of history, museums. That's one of the things my team and I love doing, a lot of art. And so we definitely have taken the time to create these specific pages within the Attendee Hub and therefore the convention app. So it's very easy for you to have access to these documents. Anything from what to do, what to wear, what's happening in the city throughout that week that we're all there, as well as what's happening within convention. Really, the Attendee Hub is going to be your one place shop for all the information that's happening inside and outside convention.
Awesome. Thank you, Suhaili. And then I'm actually going to ask you, Suhaili, this question, but I'm going to bounce it to Vanessa and Maria. I think one thing that's super important whenever we go to conferences like the ALPFA conference is how we brand ourselves and the marketing that goes into our personal profiles, whether it be on our LinkedIn. So we'll start with Suhaili and just kind of go around the room, but can you talk a little bit about how our attendees and our partners should be branding themselves within the community?
Absolutely. And I think I'll also plug in two opportunities that are happening within the convention. Being one is the ALPFA booth and the testimonial booth. The testimonial booth is something that we're doing a bit differently this year that we didn't have last year. And it's a dedicated space where my team is going to be interviewing everyone from memberships, partners, this including chapter leaders, presidents, students, professionals, specific experiences that are in programming that's happening for C-suite, right? Like this is going to be the place where we are capturing your story. I say that to say that the best branding tool that you can use is really leveraging the story that you hold, and being able to craft that in a way that is authentic to you, but really that is empowering for other, right? The receiving end. And that makes them feel something. I think throughout convention, we've all been very intentional about making sure that this is not just another convention that you've attended this year, that you've really leave this place feeling empowered and motivated and extremely grateful for the experiences that have brought you here, but more so hopeful for where you're hoping that the opportunities that convention do take you. And so the best branding tool has to be your story.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Suhaili. And I want to talk a little bit more about the story piece, but Maria, as Felicia had mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of programming that happens prior to convention, and two of the programs that happen prior to convention are our LEAD and our Diverge programs. So can you talk, Maria, a little bit about how some of our ERG leaders can start to brand themselves as maybe thought leaders in the diversity space, or really leverage that Diverge program to build more of their stories as they're going through the convention experience?
Absolutely. And this year, we actually already kicked off our Diverge program with our 3 very successful virtual sessions. So for any of our ERG leaders that are registered to participate on this event, all of the virtual sessions are available on demand on their attendee hubs, and they have everything that they need there, including a lot of handouts that we have already uploaded to make sure that their ERGs are very successful and continue to grow throughout the year. And then at convention, we will have 2 on-site in-person sessions that will allow us to interact among ERG leaders, which is an amazing experience, because I do believe that experience and that networking piece is crucial for growth and to understand and to learn and be able to take others' experiences into our own experiences. And that's going to be a very enriching experience for all of our ERG leaders attending the Diverge on-site sessions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria, for that. I want to do a plug in here for our professionals and really focusing on the professionals that may not be part of our pre-convention programs that are just coming straight to our on-site programming. It's so important for you to get plugged in, whether you are a partner, whether you're coming with one of our partner companies, you're coming as an individual, an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, making sure that while you're on site at convention, you're telling your story, going live on your social platforms and talking about how great of an experience you're having, and really engaging with your professional audience and bringing that audience into the ALPFA network as well. So it's something that I'm going to encourage all of our professionals to do, is making sure that you're sharing the information you're learning. Our convention is so rich with thought leaders. It's rich with knowledge, networking. Through our lead program, you'll learn a lot about leadership development, where you're able to take those skills that you may innately have and take them to the next level. You'll learn a lot about what it means to be a leader in a company, what it means to be a leader as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of great skills that you can learn at our convention that will help you elevate what you're doing, whether it be for your own company or whether it be for a company that you're working with. One thing that we focus on is also that entrepreneur aspect too, where you're building your own within a larger corporation. So just making sure that we are focusing on the holistic professional within our conference. And I want to dive back into the student piece with Vanessa on the storytelling aspect. Vanessa, can you talk to us a little bit more about the student experience and how students can brand themselves at convention? And then we'll throw it back to Felicia, who has rejoined us.
Yeah, so I want to say I really liked what Zuhaili said about kind of telling your own story. So as I moved around the career fair, I can't tell you how many things I said about myself personally. So every new professional that I was kind of getting to talk to, I got to tell them, about my background, about my family, my interests, and these kinds of things. So I think it's really important to brand yourself as authentically as possible and be as transparent as you can with what you're kind of hoping for with that company. So Jennifer, as you mentioned, doing your research ahead of time and kind of getting to know these companies, you'll kind of know what traits you want to highlight when you're talking to all of these professionals as you navigate through the convention.
And if you don't mind, Vanessa, I will share a quick story. As Vanessa and I have been getting to know each other the last couple of weeks and working together, she let me know that last year was her first convention. And as a marketing undergraduate, she didn't know that there weren't many spaces and or opportunities within our convention for students like her, right? But that didn't stop her from engaging with partners, engaging with students. And she was able to create and find her own little marketing community within convention last year and make those connections. That to say that with that feedback, as obviously everyone knows, I'm extremely passionate about marketing and branding as well as my team. And we have specific programming that is tailored for more creative industries and marketing specifically that will be within convention this year. And Vanessa's story really is just one, I'm sure, of thousands where students may not see themselves or what their interests are in that moment within our convention. But I will say very freely that anyone in our team is really open to feedback, and we really want to make this experience as useful as it can be for our members. So if at any given point you do have feedback of things that you may want to see in the future or type of programming that's a little bit more tailored to your industry, the bare minimum we do is take that feedback and really think about how can we make this alpha.
Yeah. So Haley, I'm going to piggyback and take a moment to dive into the professional side of things, because one thing that we've emphasized a lot on this call is how much we do for our students. And I do want to emphasize that as an organization, we've heard a lot of feedback from our professionals stating that they wanted to see more programming at convention. So I do want to take the time to address that with all of our professionals. This year, we are rolling out our Powerful Perspective series, which we are really excited about, and it's geared towards our C-suite professionals. So, and our senior level professionals as well, not just the C-suite, but the goal is to give our membership a path to the C-suite. So whether you are in the upper management level or you're already at the C-suite and you want to network and navigate that space with like-minded individuals, we've prepared a series just for that. So we will be diving into topics like the Silicon Valley Bank and what are some takeaways from that. We'll be diving into how do you balance profitability and social responsibility, and just making sure that we are offering a holistic perspective on that C-suite level of what it takes to not just show up and be profitable as a company, but also make sure that you're engaging the communities around you. We're also engaging our MPLs. For a lot of you that have been a part of the Alpha Network for long periods of time, you've probably seen our Alpha Convention, and then you've seen right after us go to MPL, which is our Most Powerful Latinas program. This year, we're bringing more of the Most Powerful Latina programming into convention through more connectivity to our Women of Alpha programming. So as I mentioned, I spearhead the Women of Alpha initiatives on the national side, and supported very heavily by our Women of Alpha Strategic Committee, who really develops a lot of the programming. So our Women of Alpha programming is programming for Latinas by Latinas, where we emphasize all of the different challenges, but as well as the beauty of our community from individuals who are actively in the community. So this year at convention, we will have a lot of programming for our professionals on the Women of Alpha side, programs that the Women of Alpha SDC has curated, but also programs that our partners have curated for professionals to be able to engage with some of the things that are challenging Latinas and helping uplift more Latinas. We will also be having our Most Powerful Latinas Roundtable, where we will have the most powerful Latinas that are in our network come together and talk about the things that they're challenged in a closed room, where they're able to engage with one another and really hear from like-minded individuals and then pour back out into the community. So to Suheli's point, we do hear your feedback and we take it into heavy consideration and continue to build intentional programs around it to ensure that not just the voices of one specific group are heard, but the voices of all of our membership. So just make sure that you're asking us questions, giving us feedback, and telling us what you want to see more of. This year, we will also be having a safe space for any individuals at convention. So if you experience something at convention, you have any questions, any concerns, we will have a safe space for you to come in and confidentially share that information, so that we're also able to take that and address it in a very confidential way, where you're able to not only have your voice heard, but also see that change will come of that as well. So please make sure that you are asking us questions, and please make sure that you are engaging with the different aspects of convention that we've built in, just to make sure that our attendees are well taken care of. And with that, I'm going to bounce it back to Felicia.
Thank you so much. And apologies to everyone for the tech difficulties. And with that, our ability to pivot here on the Alpha National side is one like I have never experienced before. Such a pleasure to be a part of. And thank you, team, for picking up in my mini absence. And as you all were speaking, the light bulb sort of went off for me that something additional that we may want to think about creating is all of the brand new things that we're bringing for our 51st convention. Last year, as our 50th, a big celebration and our first time back in person, kind of post-COVID. It was a learning curve for a lot of reasons. And we took all of that feedback and are moving forward positively. This year, to Jen, Zuhaili, Vanessa, and Maria's points, we are bringing a lot of things based on that feedback from students, professionals, and partners to make sure that everybody is accounted for and is well heard at convention this year. So super exciting to be a part of that planning experience. And I think all of that said, for the chapter leaders, presidents, and board members on this call, we want you to know that none of this would be possible without you. We are a very tiny team. We all work remote. However, you push our mission forward with feet on the ground from coast to coast. And we thank you very much for that. So thinking about all that feedback we received, ALPFA does have a chapter leadership summit where we specifically host all of our chapter leaders and gain information and feedback from them on how we can show up best annually throughout the year, best support their strategy, and then make sure that all of that comes to a head at convention. So this year we have a couple of workshops hosted by chapter leaders, for chapter leaders, by chapter leaders, for students and professionals, for those looking to sort of do what they do and how to get there. All of these individuals are highly educated and outstanding also in their outside careers. So they have full-time careers, and then they donate their volunteer time to be a part of ALPFA and volunteer and work with us because they're so passionate about what we do. So I'm super excited to see what they have to bring to the table this year in the venture capital space, in the Afro leadership space, Afro-Latino leadership space, and et cetera. So we will be more than happy to share all of that information with you after this call as well. But feel free to check your attendee hub for all of the sessions. That's where those will be listed. And then thinking about everything that we've talked about, we're going to kind of pivot back to Jen. I know she mentioned that we are bringing some things to the table specifically for professionals, but I want to dive a little bit more into that. Everybody knows that Damien is a super hard individual to catch, and he will be on site at convention this year as always, but we're going to make sure that his voice is heard in our Powerful Perspective series and on stage in the Lila Theater at the Convention Center. Jen, from your experience or your experience with the Women of ALPFA team and the MPLs, how important is making sure that we navigate systematically sort of the information for senior managers, C-suite level executives, in addition to making sure that our early professionals and students are well heard as well?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Felicia. I think one of the most important perspectives that we need to bring into every space that we enter is allyship. We need to make sure that focusing on women specifically initiatives, one of the things that I noticed is a lot of times there's hesitancy on having males in the room. And I think it's so important that we aren't preaching to the choir. And so from the Women of ALPFA side, one of the things that we're intentional about is even having males on the stage and being a part of that conversation, because we want to make sure that there's duality in our conversation. We want to make sure that allyship is being emphasized in all of the different programs that we do. So that's a key perspective. And then when you talk about professionals and you talk about looking at that C-suite level, one of the things that's important to them is how are their individuals that are coming through the pipeline being educated? How are they being mentored? How are they being lifted up? So I think it's also important to, if you see a C-suite panel that's open to you as an early career professional, do not shy away from entering in that room. If it is open for you to go in, make sure you go in. A lot of people love talking to Damien. And it's because he's so open to mentorship. He's so open to just being a voice and telling his story so that other individuals can see themselves. And a lot of our professionals are on that same path where they're waiting for somebody to come up to them and say, hey, I want to know how you became a most powerful Latina. I want to know how you got to the C-suite. So whether you are in the middle manager level, you are in the senior executive space, or you're an early career professional and you just want to know, how should you even be thinking about mapping your career? What conversations should you be having? These are the rooms that you need to dive right into. Don't be shy. To the point of what we were saying earlier with the students, on the professional side, the same things apply. A lot of times as a professional, we're scared to ask some of the more seasoned leaders how they got to their positions, or to support us, or to ask questions about things that we're struggling with, because we come into the spaces with a little bit of imposter syndrome, or sometimes we just don't know what to ask. And one of the questions that I've learned is very important is, say you need help, even if you don't know what you need help with. And actually, Damien, being one of my great mentors throughout my experience at ALPFA, he would always tell me, even if you don't know what help you need to just say, I need help, because we can work through things and figure out what is it that you need help. Because sometimes what we need help with, we have the answers to, we just need somebody to help us work through what is actually challenging us. So just making sure on the professional side, you're entering those rooms. We'll be talking about things like the Silicon Valley Bank situation that happened earlier this year, and what are the takeaways. I know a lot of us read things in the news, but we don't necessarily dive deep into what does that mean for the C-suite professionals. What did they experience? How did that affect the rest of their economy? And what were some of the challenging situations that CEOs, CFOs, and other executive leaders had other companies had to then think about in their own companies, seeing these different situations that were happening in the economy, especially earlier this year. And with the current economic climate that we're in, how are these things being navigated on a C-suite level behind closed doors? These are going to be the panels that you will get insight on to doors that are normally closed. So it's so important for you to get to convention and get into those rooms and ask the difficult questions, because those questions are going to prepare you for those roles that you're looking to maybe in the near future or far into the future. Just helps you be a better leader overall.
Fantastically said. I can't wait to hopefully be a part of those myself when we're on site. But fingers crossed that we'll be able to get there. From Zuhaili's remarks about making sure that you show up as your authentic self, and then Maria's remarks to the student community about making sure that you dive into your research when it comes down to navigating who you want to interview with, who is important to your sort of career map. From a professional perspective, thinking about this idea of maybe ALPFA starting as a finance and tax organization may not be for me, or if I'm a marketing student, if I'm a current marketing professional, what advice would you have for professionals that may not necessarily have direct experience in either finance, tax, and accounting, but are really looking forward to attending convention and seeing what other opportunities there are? In addition to Maria's comments to students, what types of tips do you have for professionals looking to navigate convention that may have a different type of experience than convention normally hosts? Jen, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, of course. So what types of advice would you have for professionals looking to navigate convention that may not necessarily have finance, tax, or accounting or banking types of experience, that are super educated, have a great resume? What types of tips would you have for those professionals looking to navigate convention, but maybe, a little timid as to, is this the place for me? Do I have the right types of experience? What tips would you have for those professionals, either early or C-suite?
I love that question. And I love that question because I came into ALPFA not being a finance major at all. I am far from a finance major. But on my perspective, one of the things that I learned is that there are so many opportunities that our partners are waiting for us to say, hey, these attendees exist at our conference and we have opportunities for them, right? So from our perspective last year, our Bank of America partners actually are a great example of exactly doing this, coming out and saying, hey, we have these individuals that come to our conference that aren't finance and accounting majors. Everybody knows Bank of America for the roles that they bring to convention as finance and accounting. But last year they showed up with their entire global tech team. And they said, there's a lot of tech majors in the ALPFA community, so we're going to show up with our tech team. And so some of our other partners did that as well last year, where they showed up with extensions of other teams that weren't necessarily just finance and accounting majors. And that happened because we started having conversations with our partners about, hey, these other majors exist, these other professionals exist, and our professionals started being more vocal about the things that they wanted as well. So my advice to you is, regardless of whether you are a finance, accounting professional, or you're totally opposite, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're in the creative space, still come and show up as your authentic self. Show up as who you are first, and then show up as what you want to do. And that's so important because sometimes people will start a conversation with you, and whether it be something that you considered as a role previously, or something that you haven't, that conversation will be so fruitful because you'll either learn, hey, I actually might want to go explore that. I've heard from a lot of attendees at convention that they started a conversation with somebody and they totally ended up changing the trajectory of their career because that one conversation opened their perspective to a new role, and vice versa. So just as you're showing up as a creative in the ALPFA space, you will be opening the doors for some of our partners that are showing up to recruit, or some of the individuals that are there just on their own for their companies, looking to network. They'll say, oh, hey, like ALPFA does have these individuals in their network, so let's make sure that we're bringing more of that into the network. So it's always a give and take with ALPFA. I always emphasize this to people, whether you are volunteering for the organization or you are taking advantage of the amazing events that we have. Show up and show out. Don't be shy to just tell people who you are and why you're there, regardless of whether you think you fit in or not, because we are in Al Familia. We emphasize that we are a family of individuals looking to uplift Latinos to be the best version of themselves that they can be. So the more that you tell us who you are and how you're showing up, the more that we can build programs, the more that we can host events, the more that we can bring topics that are related to what you're looking for, because the goal is to create a network of Latino professionals that are uplifting not just one another, but the communities that we're a part of, whether they are fully Latino or not. So show up as an ally, show up as a part of the community, and be who you are, and say what you want, say what you need, and we will be here to listen.
Fantastic. That's perfect. So before we jump into sort of like a Q&A portion, I know thank you to our production staff in the back end of this call, quickly answering all the questions coming through the comments, and we appreciate all of the engagement. Again, all of our LinkedIns are in there. Feel free to reach out to any one of us, and if we can't get you the question, we will surely know who can, the answer to the question. And with that being said, I just wanted to mention one thing from a programs side. I will say, from working directly from a program and content perspective and going through the strategy with Zuhaili, working through our marketing, from students to professionals, etc., you know, the whole board, ALPFA is constantly growing, pivoting, and we as well always have room for improvement and are learning, as is everybody else, from a partner and membership perspective. I will say that this year at convention, our partners are definitely coming with everything that they have. The economy sort of situation is different for the first time. Hiring is different for a lot of our partners. I know Google specifically is another partner bringing a big tech presence. So a lot of different items. Google also has roles in people operations, and companies bringing roles in HR. So a lot of different things outside of this kind of finance and tax and accounting world that you would normally think of when you think of who's normally at convention. And to Jen's point, in elements and in main stage events like our Pride event and our Veterans event, those two communities are going to have lots of different recruiters from our partners and outside our partnership, looking to close that gap between the Latinx and the Pride space, between the veterans and the Latinx space. So make sure that you're listening, paying attention, and to everyone's point here, just network as much as possible. And I don't think that you can get anywhere but ahead. And one of my favorite sayings is we never graduate from growth. So if we come into convention with that mantra, I think that we'll walk away with a positive list of whatever you can take away from this year. And then with that, I think we're going to see if we can sort of flash some of the questions from our production side. If you could flash some of the questions that you think would be beneficial to everyone in the audience. So here's a great one from Ashley Gutierrez. Thank you. Should I have a resume ready to hand out, or would you recommend we obtain a card to email the resume over to the partner? I'll answer, and then I'll let Maria and Jen answer that as well. I am a very paper visual person. And from a program's perspective, I never think it's a bad idea to do your research, as everyone said. Think about who you are going to interview with. Make sure that the resume is applicable to that company. It shows that you've done your research and that you are qualified and passionate about that role. And then in addition to that, as things move more digital, I think in addition, Zuhaili might have some comments as well as to LinkedIn, QR codes, potentially some easier ways that partners can gain access to that information. So Maria, do you have an answer for us first?
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing I wanted to tell all of our participants on this call is, for our students who already registered for a convention, your resume was a requirement when you completed your registration. And for professionals, your resume was an optional upload button that you saw on your registration. All of those resumes that we required and gathered through our convention registration are part of our convention resume database, which our partners are actively searching and using to get to know all of you before you get to convention. So they're already seeing your resumes. Now, it is also a good practice to get your resume, to take your resume with you. And when you're introducing yourself at a booth, you can hand it out or you can share it through a QR code. On the chat, I already saw that our amazing team added our resume template. If you need a resource, if you're thinking about maybe I can tweak this, or I'm not sure, maybe I can find a good example, feel free to use that template as an example. And if you want to update your resume, you can also always go back to your convention registration and upload any versions so that our partners are reviewing the latest version of your resume.
Amazing. And then Jen, if you have anything for our professionals, and then I'd love to hear from Zuhaili as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to echo Esteban in the chat where he mentioned it's important to have a physical copy of your resume, but also a digital version. So from a professional standpoint, as you're networking and navigating that space, it's so important for you to have a digital card as well. So if you can get tapped into a DOT, a Popple, or something of that nature that just automatically on your Apple Wallet or Google Wallet, you're able to pull up that business card, whether it be for your personal or your work. That's so important because in the shuffle, if you aren't directly speaking to a recruiter at a booth within our career fair and you just met them passively in the hallway, you want to make sure that they have a backup to what you hand them physically, but handing them something physically also helps them remember you better because they've had that interaction with you, you handed them something, and it just becomes more of a personal exchange versus just the digital aspect. So I did want to echo Esteban in saying it's important to have both on the professional side as well as the student side.
Awesome. Okay, and another question here from Jose. We want to make sure that we get through all of our questions. So thank you, Jose. Can interviews be secured before and during convention or only before convention? So great question, Jose. You can secure interviews via the Attendee Hub. When you get into the Attendee Hub, you will not only have the opportunity to chat with other attendees, but you can chat with partners accessible through the Attendee Hub as well. Most of our partners are encouraged to use the appointments tool through their version of the exhibitor portal through Cvent. So they should be utilizing that. You can access their schedules and agendas. And if not, please let us know. We are more than happy to make sure that we can get you in contact with whoever you need to contact. And again, to Maria's point, if your resume has been uploaded, all of our partners have access to the resume dashboard. Through there, your contact information has been made available to them. So lots of our partners have been target emailing certain sets of individuals based on their needs. So don't be surprised if you do have outreach specifically from one or more of our partners. And then speaking about interviews and where interview booths are going to be located, I think we're going to end with a question here about a floor plan of the career fair, which is a much larger experience than last year. Super exciting. Our marketing team and fantastic graphic designers have done a great job at making sure that it's easy to digest and navigate. So for you, Zuhaili, one more question. Do we have a floor plan? And is a list of exhibitors and booth numbers going to be available to our attendees?
Well, yes, absolutely. We do have a floor plan, and that floor plan you can find within the Attendee Hub and therefore your convention app. It does have booth numbers. There's also specific signage where it shows where the interview booths within the career fair, you can find them. That map will be inside the career fair and outside of the career fair. Once you're in the actual space, you'll actually see a lot of our signage resembles when you go to the mall. So like mall signage, letting you know you are here, this is where you can go next. And that's essentially, because it's such a big space, it's how we decided to kind of take on that challenge. So you can find on the Attendee Hub, as we've mentioned before, the Attendee Hub really is the one-stop shop for all information. It's the place where you make interviews, appointments for your interviews. You can start making connections with other attendees, with partners. You do not have to wait until August 20th to start doing that. You can start doing that today. You can start building your own programming and agenda, essentially programming that you would like to attend, right? So a lot of the confusion last year was the fact that within the Attendee Hub, you can essentially create your own agenda. This does not mean that you are securing any seats. This is a very large convention. Please arrive to any workshops, any events throughout the convention early to really secure your space, especially for those workshops that you're extremely interested in attending. The Attendee Hub really is your one-stop shop information. It is to be used as a reference point across the board. But you will not be securing any seats by saving the event or saving a specific workshop within your agenda. So I just wanted to make sure, just so everyone had that piece of information going into the event, so they can have the best experience possible.
That's a fantastic note, Zuhaili. Yeah, so if you are registered, please make sure that you do show up early, that you are intentional about making sure that you get to the sessions and workshops that you would like to attend. There's so many different fantastic opportunities. It is going to be difficult to choose. And again, please reach out to us if you have any pieces of information that you need or how to navigate creating a schedule. I will also mention here that we have a sort of super set of volunteers, I will say, this year. So it's going to make things a little bit easier when it comes to navigation. They are going to be all over career fair, being used as sort of kind of human directional signage, in addition to all the beautiful marketing that we have up in the career fair. There will be individuals placed between the career fair and the interview booths, navigating any kind of plug and play options or on-site hires or availability. And on that note, kind of back to Jose's question, we did have a comment come through from one of our wonderful partners. We would like to thank Ruth and Wells Fargo. We work with Ruth directly and her team. They are one of many partners of ours, and they're a very active part of the ALPFA community, very passionate about their membership. I had the honor of being a part of Latina Equal Pay Day on site here at ASU, sponsored by Wells Fargo and the Phoenix chapter. So they're very active in our community. And her comment is to our full ALPFA membership and all of those coming to convention, letting us know how excited that they are to meet everybody at convention, and that Wells Fargo will be doing on-site interviews and hiring directly from the career fair, from their interview booth. So you have the open from Ruth herself at Wells Fargo to reach out to her personally. And if you can't get a hold of her, we would love to make that connection. So let's see, do we have any other questions? I don't think so, but I would love to kind of end our session today by asking the team members joining me here, from an ALPFA national perspective, what are you most excited for at convention this year, 2023? Who's gonna go?
I can jump in. Myself, and I speak for my team as well. We're extremely excited for the ALPFA booth this year. It was all of our first time putting together, thinking about a booth design in general. So we actually turned to our own partners to ask for their feedback. How do you go about this? We have no idea what we're doing, right? And all of them so open to giving us feedback and help, and really helping us guide us through this challenge. And we've put so much thought and creativity into thinking about what does the ALPFA booth, what is it going to signify within the career fair? What do we want it to do? And how does it fit within the overall theme? And so I'm very excited for everyone to experience that and go into our little home at the ALPFA booth this year. So that's the one thing that I'm extremely excited. And I will say there are photo opportunities throughout the entire convention. Our fantastic graphic designer, the only and best graphic designer, Alex, she designs everything to be, for every design to be as a backdrop for a picture. So please, while you are at convention, make sure that you're taking pictures with your chapters, with your friends, with your colleagues, across the board with all the photos opportunities, and make sure that you're tagging us so we can all show what a fantastic experience it is to attend convention.
Perfect. All the photo ops. Can't wait. Vanessa, what about you?
I'm very excited for the career fair this year. I feel like since last year was my first time experiencing it, I didn't feel as prepared as I do going into it this year. So I'm super excited to be doing it again.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's definitely different from a planning perspective, but it's going to be beautiful. We can guarantee everybody that. And then Maria, what about you? What are you most excited for?
So I'm most excited for what I'm most excited for is to be able to meet all of our members there. So in my daily basis, I interact with a lot of our professional members and a lot of our student members. And I do feel like one of the the most special things that Alpha has in an organization is the very unique stories, and having the possibility of bringing all of those stories into just one place and having to meet you and listen about your stories and your journeys, to me is the most special thing of being in one place. So I'm usually at the info desk. Stop by, say hi. I'm very excited to meeting all of you.
Thank you so much, Maria. And Jen?
I'll say what I'm most excited about is to see it all come together. I think a lot of people are used to going to events and not necessarily seeing the work that goes into it, and to know that Alpha has such a young team that is so dedicated to just such a phenomenal cause, but beyond a phenomenal cause, dedicated to making sure that our attendees have an experience that is like no other. I think for me, being able to go on site and feel the passion from our audience, feel the passion from our attendees, feel the passion from our partners, and then see how that drives a national team to work round the clock. And our volunteers are such an intricate part of everything that we do year round. And so to see all of that come together and know what goes on behind the scenes to make that happen, from the student level to the professional chapter level, national team, board of directors, corporate advisory board, it's just a continuous effort that never stops. It never sleeps. And it's just phenomenal to see it all come together every year at convention. And this year we have almost 5,000 attendees. So to know that it is probably one of the largest ones that we've had thus far, and see it come together after knowing the work that went into it, is just going to be phenomenal. So that's what I'm most excited about.
I have to agree. That is probably one of the igniting forces of it all, is seeing all your work right in front of you, and truly an honor to be a part of it. For me, the most exciting thing that I am looking forward to, in addition to all the other wonderful things that convention brings, is specifically from the programming side. We took in feedback from our members, feedback from our partners, and from our Alpha National team members, and together built a list of sort of programs and workshops that were new to the structure. And a lot of those were adopted and chosen by our partners. So really looking forward to seeing a lot of those come to life, and how we can continue to kind of push our mission forward by taking in the feedback, applying it, and then really seeing it work to the best of everyone's benefit. So I'm really excited to be a part of all of that. And then one last thing that we wanted to talk about, just for anybody else on this call, just a reminder that if you are tuned in from YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, if you could please make sure that you share this link for us and tag Alpha National for all of those who weren't able to join us for this hopefully educational and productive hour. So we wanted to ask you all to do that. And I think that Jen has just one last comment for us, because there's so many exciting things you couldn't fit it into an hour. So go ahead before we close this out, Jen.
Just shameless plug. We know how much our Latinos love coffee. So make sure that y'all come see the Women of Alpha at the Cafecito con Pan on the first day of convention, just to network and get to know one another. But we know how Latinos love coffee. So make sure you're there, or, you won't get any coffee.
We all love coffee. And I'll shameless plug myself. I am the only non-Latina on the Alpha National board and an ally. I've been adopted by Alpha National, and I love coffee. So I will see you there. And thank you so much to our team for joining us and taking time out of your busy days. We are in Alpha Amelia, and although we all are remote, it never feels like it. So thank you so much for donating your time to share the stage with me and pivot through our technical difficulties. We will all be on site very early, running everything pre-convention student boot camp, pre-convention Alpha Connects, but still available to our partners and members. Please find us on LinkedIn. Let us know if there's anything we can assist you with, or any partners we can connect you to. And we can't wait to see you starting the 21st, if not earlier, if you're joining us for that weekend. So thank you all very much. Can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you.